Hey friends, I'm Otis Gibbs, and this is my buddy Mike Grimes. He's going to share some stories about his friendship with John Prine.
John was zero pretense. John considered anybody that was in his sphere of presence to be equal to himself. And I think that that's one of the things that makes him the icon that he is he's so naturally relatable to every person. And he treated everybody equally. And when somebody has that level of celebrity, it's got to be difficult to do that. And he has traversed those waters of being a regular guy who sees everybody equal. And it's really extraordinary. My affiliation with John Prine goes back to my band that I had in 1993 called the Biscuits, being the first band that Oh Boy Records signed other than John. Like, I didn't even realize that until I was told by Eileen from Oh Boy Records about 3 months ago, because I knew we were one of the first. She's like, you guys were the first band that was signed to Oh Boy Records. Did you know that? And I was like, I should have known that. But so John's manager, Albinetta, is the one who basically saw us. And we'd only had, I think it was our third show or something like that. And he comes back and says, I want to put a record out on you guys. So therein begins our relationship with Oh Boy Records and John Prine. And John Prine's been a bud forever because he's really good friends with Roger Cook, a writer in town who's had much success. And I dated Roger Cook's daughter. And so basically he became kind of a family friend that we would see semi-regularly, right? So I would see him kind of personally and professionally. And so, yeah, our relationship / friendship started in about 1992, late 1992. We were really lucky to have John at the Basement in 2018 because his Tree of Forgiveness record had just come out. And so basically, Grimey's worked out a scenario where if you bought the Tree of Forgiveness record, we created a new model whenever the Basement East opened, because oftentimes what you can do is, or what we would do is, if you buy an artist's new record, that gets you into an in-store performance. Well, in that case, you can sell about 200 records. But if you sell the record to people and tell them this gets you into a performance at the Basement East, then you can sell over 600 records. So we were like, okay. And we said, hey, John, do you want to come do a gig where you buy the record, you get into a performance at the Basement East? And he said, sure. And what was extraordinary about this was, like, most of the time the in-store appearances at Grimey's were like 30 minutes. But this was going to be a performance at the Basement East with the full band, everything. And we got the full show, like a 2-hour performance. And I don't even want to start crying right now because it was just, and it's been captured too. Maybe it'll see the light of day at some point. But that was another kind of career high where John and he, I came back in the next morning to my desk and there were 2 white paper plates with doodles on them from John. And I was so like, oh man, that was so sweet. I mean, I talked to him for a few seconds backstage before they went on, but I come back the next morning, he's like, hey, he left these for you. And I'm like, oh man, that was awesome. So yeah, that was another one of those career highs. And, to have that full John 2-hour experience, that's the only full show I've ever seen him do. Yeah, because I saw him open for Bonnie Raitt years ago. He did an event out in front of the Oh Boy office whenever our record came out, and a couple of other artists' records came out. We had a kind of an Oh Boy party with a bunch of hay bales and stuff, and all the bands played little short sets. But John came out and played 30 minutes solo and just blew everybody away. Yeah, and he guested on the stage here at the Basement a few times as well.
You drew something on paper plates?
Yes. Okay. Like personalized to me. The crazy thing is, I think that they got thrown away. Or I had them in I got photos of them, But I was like, I'd been looking for him frantically. I was like, where in the fuck is? I mean, I guess I should have taken him home immediately, but whenever that happened, I was just so busy that I stuck him in my desk, and somebody may have gotten in there and thought they were just two paper plates because if they were face down, then nobody saw that there was anything written on them. They might have just thrown them away. I don't think anybody actually actively took them from me. No, I've already said the things that just said, he was just this genuine person who treated everybody equally. And I mean, that really is the core of how I always felt. That somebody who had the ability to put words like that together has got to be somebody who, I always consider people who are super, super artistic, they're deficient in some area, and oftentimes it's like social skills. But he had the gift of words and the gift of relating to people, And it's really weird. I find it difficult to listen to John because I don't want to get sad. It should make me happy because all of his music is just so beautiful. But I find myself not gravitating towards listening to his records because I start thinking about him and I get a little sad. I can veer that way. I can listen to him oftentimes and just be celebratory about his life. But there are times where I'm like, I get really sad because I just think about his last days sometimes. I'm like, and what really looked like a turnaround. I mean, if you remember the series of events, like he was on an intubator, and then they were about to get him off it. They were saying that he's getting better. I mean, there were these reports that, John Prine's getting better. I'm like, oh, good. I mean, and then that was not the case. So this kind of false sense of optimism where John's survival was like hopefully coming back. I was like, oh,